Forward to it, especially as the weather had been so bad, and the last few days she didn't really want to venture out. But she knew it had to be done, so taking the bull by the horns, she ventured out early that morning, hoping to get it all done in one day. It had previously snowed, but had warmed up a little, and the snow had begun to melt to a slush. The pavements were still tricky to negotiate though, and Joan was worried about falling, so she took great care when walking. Today was definitely milder, but looked very cloudy, and the temperature had risen a little, so it seemed to make the task more pleasant, she thought. She arrived in town early, around 10 a.m, to avoid the start of the Christmas rush, and was desperate for a cuppa first, so she decided to go to Joe's cafe. She opened the door and heard the familiar jingling sound of the doorbell, then sat down at a small table next to the window. As a treat, and because it was close to Christmas, she thought she would have a cake too. The cafe was filling up quickly, and she noticed a couple of people who she knew in the far corner. Acknowledging them with a wave of the hand and mouthing the words, "Hello, are you all right?" She sat down. It was warm and cosy in the cafe, and the steam from the hot water boiler and the damp air outside, the windows had begun to steam up, and water had started to run down the window in trickles, making small pools of water on the ledge. "Morning, Joan," Clarissa said with a smile in her voice. Clarissa was the daughter of one of Joan's work colleagues at the factory. She was in her final year at Birmingham University studying art and ceramics. She was a slim, pretty girl with long brown hair, which had been tied up at the back into a ponytail. "Morning, Clarissa," Joan replied. "Have you finished for Christmas, love?" "Yes, I've got a few weeks off now, thanks." "I bet your mum is spoiling you at the moment," she said, smiling. "Yes, she is," Clarissa replied, laughing. "You know how she loves fussing over me, and to be honest, I don't mind that at all." "I bet you don't," Joan said. "Looking forward to Christmas, love?" "Yeah, I love it," she exclaimed. "Brought any presents yet?" "No, not yet," Clarissa said. "Just enjoying catching up with friends at the moment." There was a pause. "I suppose I shall have to think about it soon then." "Well, would you like the usual, Joan?" "Yes, please," she replied. "A pot of tea would be lovely. But I'm also going to have a cake this morning as well," she said excitedly. "We've got homemade lemon drizzle if you fancy that," Clarissa remarked. "Oh, my favourite," Joan replied. "Yes, a slice of that will do nicely, thanks." "You know what they say, a moment on the lips." Clarissa broke off laughing. "I'll get you a drink." They both smiled, and Clarissa turned and went back to the counter. Joan couldn't face Christmas shopping just yet. She had been racking her brains over the last few weeks about what to buy Geoffrey for Christmas, but couldn't come up with anything, and so she needed more time to think about it. The tea and cake arrived promptly, and Joan began to ponder. What could she buy the man who had everything, she thought. As she was pondering this dilemma, she looked up from her coffee and noticed Geoffrey standing next to the door of the cafe. She must have been engrossed in her thoughts because she never heard the familiar sound of the doorbell jingle. He stood in the doorway for a couple of seconds before noticing her near the window. "Hiya, Jeff, you're out early," she shouted to him across a now bustling cafe. "It didn't take you long at the solicitor's then." "I haven't been yet," he said, sitting down opposite her. "I got the appointment time wrong. It was 11 a.m, not 10 a.m. "Typical," Joan smiled broadly. She looked at her watch. It was now 10:30 a.m. "Never mind, love, at least you're early and not late for your appointment." There was a pause. "How did you know I was here, by the way?" Joan asked. "Just an educated guess, really, I suppose," he said, smiling. "I know this is your favourite place." "Anyway, it looks like you've been shopping," she said, changing the subject. "Is that a new scarf? I've not seen that before." Jeff smoothed the scarf down with both hands and quickly stared at us. Well, you're always going on happy to get a new one. I saw this in Pritchard's window and thought how nice it looked. Yes, it looks lovely. The colour is so vibrant, Joan said. Since when have you had an interest in shopping then? Well, Jeff said confidently. I was now running early, so I had a bit of spare time. I wasn't really shopping, I just noticed the scarf in the window. And what with my other one dropping to pieces, and in your own words, looking like an old ragger in my neck, I thought I would make the effort and surprise you. Don't get used to it though. I'm sure it won't happen again. They both laughed in unison. Well, you absolutely surprised me, Jeff. You really have, she said. I'm just going to wash my hands. That cake was lovely, but so sticky. I won't be a minute. Joan stood up and walked towards the toilets. After a couple of moments, she came back. I've ordered you a coffee, love, she said, sitting down. Jean, I'm sorry, but I don't have much time, really. His voice seemed to trail off. You've got plenty of time yet before your appointment, she said. Clarissa came over and placed the coffee next to Joan. Looks like you definitely need another caffeine fix this morning, Joan, she said, laughing. Joan smiled, but looked at her slightly puzzled. Joan stared at Jeff and noticed he looked different. He looked brighter, she thought. He looked fresh somehow. What she did know for certain was that she still loved him with all of her heart. Suddenly, a shaft of strong, bright yellowish white light broke through the clouds, and a glistening beam of light shone through the cafe window, straight onto Jeff's face. Wow! Jean exclaimed. God is definitely shining his light on you this morning. Your scarf, it looks so vivid. The colour, is it indigo? It looks absolutely beautiful. Your face is all